Andy Teese, Paul Fraley, and Bill Garrison here to review capital.
All right, Paul and Andy, are you on deck?
We're here.
All right. Bill's here as well, I believe. For Parks, Recreation. I do not see Bill.
Yes, I am
Ah.
here.
Okay,
Sorry.
all righty. So starting at the top, we have our street paving and sidewalks where we have 240,000 sidewalk and curb, and then 350,000 for the borough. The 240,000 is our CHIPS funding, and the 350,000 would be a debt borrow, or as we sometimes throw out, a transfer in from general fund. So the CHIPS funding, is that a definite, Paul? I know David sent me something, but I didn't have a chance to look at it for CHIPS.
No, what he sent you today was not related. It was, they don't agree with our calculation on this last drawdown. Almost as if they weren't backing out the 20% that we were told to back out, but that's, really not- yeah,
okay.
that's unrelated. That's,
Okay, gotcha. All right, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything.
no, I agree with everything you said.
Okay, perfect. So if the board is agreeable, we will move these two items over into the board approved column.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
I can't see if others are nodding. We'll just hope that people,
Manuela's nodding. I got a thumbs up from Bob. All right. The next item is the CDBG sidewalk improvements for James Street in 2021. So that's a CDBG amount of 200,000 with a match from the village of 200,000.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
200,000 to be given 200,000 to do
Yeah.
stuff we want to do anyway. Yeah, that's no brainer.
Absolutely.
So Paul, this is almost $1 million in paving and right of way improvement. That's as much as you've ever done, I think. Is this an amount that, like, an amount of work that the crew of the team is going to be able to get done in 2021? I mean, I assume you're only recommending it because you think you can get it done.
I think we just topped that this past year, once, if you add all the right-of-way work up as well.
Oh, is that what I'm looking at? Is that the 1.34? All right.
But let me just make a comment about the CDBG work. After we discussed this, Tuesday, right? So, or Monday? Yesterday, I had a call with County CDBG, and it's not certain that it's going to be that James Street Spring corridor, or only the James Street Spring Street corridor around the business district there. We were talking about possibly going into other CDBG overlays and doing ADA accessibility in other areas in Ossining too under this same contract, but we're back and
In
forth.
addition to or instead of?
I'm sorry, you broke up, Rika?
Question
Sorry
was
about-
mission
in
towards
addi- I'll do it again. In addition to James Street or instead of?
No, in addition, instead of
Okay,
doing,
just wanted to be clear.
yes, instead of doing the entire length of James Street from Highland to really Lower James past State, we considered possibly doing the where it intersects with Spring, and then any other intersection that doesn't have an ADA on James, like Eastern, I think, and State, are not, they all have ADA, but an improved ADA ramp. And then also other areas throughout the village, so we can kind of spread that money around a little bit. But that's still something that we have to fine tune with them. That's not certain yet.
Okay.
Sounds like they're just giving you flexibility and you want to dedicate the resources to the most heavily used pedestrian areas. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, exactly.
It's good if they
So-
give. Yeah, but I hope you just use it.
Thumbs up.
But the money's committed, though. I mean, they're not balking at that. It's just where it's spent.
Great.
Are we voting? Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. I'm looking for everybody's thumbs.
There we go.
Nice. All right.
I
So
see your little cursor running around, Dale.
I'm trying. I'm trying. So over here, we had put this 4x4 pickup truck on hold for street maintenance that they're asking to now purchase. And we had already allocated the funds in 2020, and I think we should be okay to let them move forward on these. That's a purchase on hold. This $250,000 below it for the 6-wheel dump truck, we had done a bond resolution already that the board had approved, as well as for the 180,000. We just did not move forward because at the time with COVID, we were not sure where we were going to actually be as we got towards the end of the year. So if we did borrow for these, we would borrow in 2021 so that the first principal payment would not be due until 2022's budget. So Paul, these obviously are needed. They were needed for this year, correct?
Yeah. Yes, that was the, when we had our preliminary COVID meeting, we asked that the board consider allowing us to purchase the Bucky utility truck, which you did, thankfully, because that's still actually being built. We don't even have it yet. So we're working with what we have. And these we put on hold, and we'll be happy to resurrect the POs in January.
So Dale, these are, what's the probable useful life of these vehicles? And would they only ever be in a ban? And would be something you would ever recommend, at least the smaller amounts be paid for out of fund balance?
These have a 15-year life. I'll double check on this one, too, but I'm pretty sure they're a 15-year life. As we go along, maybe by the time we get to the end of it, if we want to revisit whether we want to fund something out of fund balance versus borrow for it, that might be helpful once we get through everybody's request.
How about the pickup trucks?
These are the dump.
I mean up higher, the 45.
This one was already funded by fund balance last year. The 50,000.
It just wasn't spent, right?
Yes. We were holding off on spending on as much as we could just to determine where we were.
Okay, because it says on hold due to COVID-19, request to purchase 2021.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Does it make a difference if we say, let's pay it out of unexpended 2020 funds versus 2021 fund balance? I mean, it's the same fund.
Right. Yeah.
Just say, go ahead now.
Yeah, it's just a difference in wording. You know, if you're going to use fund balance, and then we'd have to do the budget adjustment, for 2020. Yes. If we were funding it out of fund balance.
It wouldn't make a difference as far as our overall tax rate for next year, or overall 2020.
These items are not in the operating budget, so no. Right. Right, because if this one was already funded from fund balance, from 2019 fund balance into 2020. These were slated to be a borrow. So they would have been paid by debt. Their first year of a debt payment would have been 2021 if we had actually borrowed for them, but we have not. So the first year of debt we would pay if we went that way would be 2022
All right.
for these two. Yep.
I'm trying to get to that 348, so that's what I'm asking for. Thanks.
Sure. The next item, this is actually for police. So they had in for three marked vehicles.
Yeah, what's the useful life on a police car? Because it's certainly not 15 years.
Three. They have a 3-year life.
For those. So we might do a bond anticipation note, but we never bond for those.
We have done, right, bond anticipation notes, and we've also funded from fund balance in previous years.
Okay, and what are you recommending this year?
We could fund from fund balance, especially since they have such a short useful life. You know, it makes sense.
Okay.
The Axon tasers, the Axon interview system are two items that are in our operating budget that I have included on our one-time fund balance use. Additional amounts that we were just speaking of previously. So that's part of that
130.
additional 133,000 number to be taken from fund balance. Any,
No, I like that idea.
okay.
I think the role here, Dale, is until somebody yells or screams, you should go on.
Okie dokie. It's getting hard to see the thumbs.
Oh, I think we're waiting to finish the column area and then.
Right. Gotcha. So next on the list was for the chief's vehicle. Again, that's going to have a short useful life on that one. We have a fire engine in.
I'm sorry, the chief's, I'm sorry, just a question. Chief's vehicle is being requested because the other one is old. It doesn't have any information. I can't tell.
When the chiefs were here, they spoke on that.
Okay,
It
They ask
seems,
for every 2 years. They just always ask for one every 2 years. And Pete Connolly was agreed to forego getting a chief's car one time, and they still talk about it. When was Pete Connolly the chief? What was that, like 15 years ago? So they
Well,
ask for one every 2 years.
well,
okay.
12 or 13 years ago.
right.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I just realized I'm looking at my phone. Yeah, we did get the detail on this stuff in a different document.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, the
Yeah, I got it.
schedule? Yes, yep.
Yep, oh, yep, thanks. I just found it. Thank you.
Okay, great. The next item is the fire engine E 100 that's in for 2020. I would certainly say to borrow for that.
Yeah, and I will say that, and Bob, I don't know how widespread this belief is, but according to Officer DeCruz, when he and I spoke at, I don't know, I guess it was inspection in 2019 because we didn't have one in 2020, right?
Right.
But was that the fire trucks, the apparatus we're buying now, the theory is that it has a 25-year life rather than 20. And I don't know how I can impress that upon our successors a quarter century from now, but that is the mindset.
I'm tend to lean to agree with you, and you know, the snafu with Engine 100 right now is it's an American LaFrance. They're not in business no more. they are at their 20-year. It just so happens if the chips fell that way where it's getting very, very high cost to maintain or get even parts if something happens. So, I don't want you to misunderstand me. I'm just stating facts. So, I think, that's a good number they budgeted at. I believe it could probably come under that. And that's all I could really talk about that. So,
The 725 is pretty high. It's not a ladder truck. So, but
ladder trucks are $1 million.
Dale, we don't, do we vote on the bond before we have a clear, like the bid, anticipated bid, or the anticipated amount is a little more precise? I'm just wondering if Bob's
Right, yeah,
25 might be a little high, maybe it's only 7, and we don't have to go out to bond for 725, right? We go out to bond for the amount that.
Correct. Yeah, they might, I
Mhm.
don't know, that they could be just throwing that number as a placeholder.
Better to go down than up, but.
No, well,
Right.
with the understanding that they don't need to spend $725,000 on an engine. I don't see it,
It's really nice, though. I like that.
What's that?
I like that black paint, though, but it shouldn't cost $25,000.
We call it the Boar's Head truck.
It's lovely. Lovely truck. I can't believe it's 20 years old. All right.
Okay, so are we moving that to the board approved column? At the 725?
As a placeholder?
Right, yeah,
Well, we have to either approve it or not approve it for the budget. So the
Right.
amount itself, I think, is always a placeholder. And
Right.
yes, exactly. Yep, because even if we do the debt resolution for the 725, when we go and actually do the borrow, we only borrow for the actual amount we need.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Agreed.
All right.
Uh,
I'm sorry, I wasn't here for the Chiefs meeting, but generally speaking, it seems okay to me, but I'm sorry about that. I don't know if I can contribute an up or down vote on that.
2 thumbs up.
There wasn't any more of an in-depth discussion about that particular engine than what you just got from Bob.
Yeah. I got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So next in line is, utility truck. U51 in 2021 for $150,000.
So Rika, so that is our quote unquote fast truck that we go and it also does elevator calls in the village. It carries
Oh.
carries a lot of equipment. It's not a big fire truck per se. It's a utility truck, and it's set up
Right.
to carry all this equipment, but also the fast team uses that. So if Croton has a bad fire, they dispatch Osting's fast team. We take that vehicle, and it has all the equipment that we need as a fast team to go to the scene and be ready to help them out or assist. We've gone to Chappaqua, we've gone all over the county on fast calls. So I believe the utility that they have now, I believe, is a 2001. I believe Donnie Farrell was chief when they purchased that. And it's only a regular cab. This truck, I believe they want to make it a 4-man cab so they can carry more guys. As Chief Gallery said, the village would be getting a real nice truck to go back into the fleet somewhere with DPW or whoever.
Right.
Oh, because, okay. Is everybody okay with this? I'm going to do Dale's job now. Sorry.
I guess, I was not part of that either. I was trying to find the document that Maddie sent out in regards to vehicles. I don't think on the list is the fire trucks. Are they Maddie?
I
Yes.
was just the messenger for that list. I do not know the answer.
Okay, all right, no problem.
You,
The,
Paul,
if I,
Paul and
sorry.
Andy are, Paul, can you answer that question? I don't know if he's listening.
I'm sorry, say that again. I was muted.
No, I was, what I was saying is, we had the vehicle list, sure, is the vehicle list, is the fire trucks, are they part of the vehicle list that was sent out to us?
Not apparatus or the fast vehicle, just, I think the chief's vehicles are on here, but I have it right in front of me, so let me just give it a quick look and I'll.
That's what I thought too.
I didn't see that either, so that's why I was
It was
double
the
checking.
Chiefs, but not all the,
So, refresh my memory,
Yeah, we just have the, I mean, Bob, you could probably say which is which here, but we just have we have the bus on here. We have the Chevy 3500, which might be the fast truck,
Yeah,
intervention number 51.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we have a Suburban, a Tahoe, and then 4 more Tahoes, a 13, a 15, a 17, and a 19.
right. What year was that U51? Is that on there?
Yeah, it's a 02,
02, so I was off by a year. So it's,
Chevy 3500.
okay.
so, so Bob and Proby Dell, refresh my memory, when did we do, there was one of the fire trucks, or one of the vehicles that we refurbished them and did a lot.
Rescue 14, I believe it was two
Yeah.
years ago.
Hmm.
How much was that one, Dell, on the last time?
I'd have to stop sharing and go look it up.
About 300,000.
Hmm.
Thank you. So this, so again, so this is a new truck, 2021, I'm assuming?
For which one you talk, the
So the one
truck
that we are
or
looking at right now, yeah, for the.
Yeah, it is.
U51.
the utility? Yes. That'd be a new truck. And I think that, again, I think that's a estimated placeholder. That could be, I don't know the initial cost of what the vehicle would be. I think they put that in there as a placeholder. I believe the chiefs are very frugal as far as that would be, and it would, I would be hard pressed to think that it would cost that much, but I don't know, it's depends on the vendor, depends on the style of apparatus. So,
Okay, so, and again, so what's wrong with the one that we have right now? Is it mileage? Is it wear and tear?
no, it's not mileage. It's just, it doesn't work. When we originally
18
started
years old.
yeah, it's 18 years old. It at the time back then when the fast teams first started, that's what they bought. And as we grow and as the fast team grows and the manpower and the needs, this is what you're seeing around the state for utility trucks. Something that's more feasible, that can carry. Right now, I go to get the fast truck, it's me and another guy, and we have to take an engine with the rest of the team. So at least here we can get 4 or 5 guys, which is enough to initiate our initial response as a fast team.
And
So
let me ask you, so where did trucks usually park?
This is parked on Main Street in the old Senate hook and ladder.
Okay, so my other question would be, I guess, does the new specs on the truck, we were talking about, would it fit in the same house?
Oh, yeah.
Firehouse?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You fit a fire truck in there, you can fit that in there.
I don't know, I'm just, I don't want to go down the line, but, we did buy a truck that
No,
doesn't fit in a firehouse. So I just want to make sure that, that this is not the case.
I will not comment on that one, but I will comment on the utility. Utility will definitely fit. The other truck, I am not going to touch right now.
When you guys discussed this, did you also ask, so sometimes when you buy something 15, 18, 20 years later, a lot of the, what I call ancillary, all the surprises, don't fit correctly anymore. It's sort of the, you buy something new and now all the electric, all the computerization, all the seating stuff, all the extras that end up costing oftentimes per year as much as the car or truck itself. Would you say, Bob, based on your knowledge or based on anybody discussing this, that all the stuff just works the same way, or are we going to get a bill for all the other pieces that go with this?
No, the radios, again, the county's doing a complete upgrade on radios, but
Right.
We'll have that probably by then, by the time they get this truck.
Okay.
So that the radios and stuff, that all swaps over. That's there's no surprises there, and it'll be equipped when it shows up with whatever lights they design on the truck.
All right.
I mean,
Okay.
it's not apples to apples. It's a much better vehicle, and it's not because I'm actually stepping down from the fast team. It's a young guys game, so I'm not getting younger.
So Rob, actually, while you're talking about that, for folks who haven't been sitting in these meetings for as long as we have, we just keep using the term fast team. Tell us, what is the fast team?
Firefighter Assist Search Team. So in other words, the idea behind it is, if say Croton has a working fire and they dispatch us as their fast team, we go to the scene with our crew and we stand by right out in front of the fire scene wherever they want us, and we stage. We do a walk around to the building. We ladder windows if guys are up on second floors. There's stuff we do around the scene, but we do not get involved until either we get put to work and they call another fast team in, or God forbid something happens in the building, we go in and get the guy out or the guys out. And the reason they do that with a different department, because if it was your own department and you put your own fast team at your own fire scene, it becomes a personal issue at that point, and guys will mentally not think right. That's my buddy Joe's in there, I got to get him, where we're trained to go in there, do our job, get the guy out, and there's no personal attachment. That's why they always ask for other villages to come. So that's basically what a fast team does.
And does every every municipality, so does Croton come to Ossining in the
Yes.
reverse scenario?
Croton comes to Ossining. Montrose does not have a fast team, nor Verplank or Buchanan. Peekskill, I believe, does not. So they usually call in Croton, and it goes, territorially, not the
Contiguous geography.
Yeah, what's basically surrounding. But there's been times where multiple fast teams have been called to a scene because they didn't have the manpower, so they took that fast team of 5 or 6 guys, put them to work as regular firefighters on the scene, and the other fast team takes over their duty as the fast team that they call in. So
Bob, not to make you the spokesperson for the fire department, but we are at the moment. We're realizing we have more questions than we thought to ask when the OFD chiefs were here. So we are a very, very active department with a lot of people, and so we have a fast team, we have 2 ladder trucks. That we don't have. I know that I can think of one that we don't have that other surrounding departments have that we bring in. I know there's something we get from Millwood, and it happened when there was a fire in the town and there were no.
You're talking about the Cascade. Usually, either Buchanan or Briarcliff, we call for the Cascade unit, which is they refill. It's a portable air fill system that they bring to the scene if it's a lengthy fire and we need to refill bottles and have them back on the trucks ready to go in case we need more air. God bless you.
Thank you.
I don't believe we need that. We have our own built-in Cascade unit down at headquarters that, which is used, again, we use that after fires. We use that after trainings. We refill our bottles. We refill the air bottles on the tower ladder. We have a big, huge air bottle for our air system up on the ladder. So, but as far as us need, that we reach out for that, and
One time when they were someplace out in the town, then there was no hydrants. Somebody, I feel like it was Millwood, came in.
Oh yeah, the tanker trucks. They had the big portable tanks that they set out. They holds like 3,000 gallons of water. We don't.
I'm not suggesting that we should get all those things. I'm actually the reverse. I'm saying, like,
Right.
we provide a lot to other departments, but there are some things that hopefully other departments can provide to us.
Yeah, no, yeah, I tell you, it's very reciprocal. We train hand in hand with them. We train with Millville, we train with Croton, we train with Yorktown. And, it's become, a very good relationship with all the departments.
All right, thank you for that. All right.
Great.
We went a little bit of a tangent there, but Dale, we're back to budget, to capital projects. Oh, and look at the next one is fire trailer.
Well, so U51 sounds, Dale, like it is in the column of fingers up, thumbs up.
Okay,
Not fingers up, excuse me, thumbs up.
thanks for clarifying.
But nobody caught that little bit of humor, but it's okay. Oh, the fireboat and trailer.
Yes, fireboat and trailer. So this item has been here every year, and we seem to push it forward to the next year every year.
What was it previously on there? Because I thought I remember that being higher.
Yeah, it was 350.
Yeah, thanks for looking that up. Yes, so they had said that they had gone out and gotten more pricing, and I just made some adjustments and brought it down to the 250.
Right. So I'm gonna not be in support of this personally, so that would be one thumbs down.
Every year when we talk about this, we talk about the potential for a shared fire and police boat. We have a police boat that's coming to probably the end of its useful life, and that would be another opportunity to talk about it.
Can't hear you, Victoria.
Victoria, we can't hear you.
You're coming in like in a big echo chamber.
Okay.
Oh, better.
Every year we talk, in the last few years, we've talked about the potential for a shared fire and police boat. There's some resistance to that. There's, very different departments. Some are, obviously fire is volunteer, police is paid, and so is always there. There are pros and cons. The biggest challenge, I think, is culture and getting people to work together. But those are both very, very expensive. Buying and maintaining a boat for any department is a very expensive venture. And I'm not suggesting that we don't need something or that there wouldn't be occasions when it could be helpful, but it is, I am also not supportive of putting $250,000 in the 2021 budget for this at this time. There's going to be a fireboat. I think it needs a lot more thought and collaboration.
I'm going to agree with that. Bob and I had a discussion after this, like we had last week, I guess, and a little bit of that. And I agree with everything that was said so far. Until we have a lease, until they bring something to the board where actually it makes sense. And that's what I was explaining to Bob. It's not just the capital project, it's obviously the maintenance that it has to be allocated to do this. So it's not just a one-time purchase, but it's more like every year we have to allocate budget to this. So I just don't see the need right now to go through this process. So I'm not in favor of this myself.
Can someone explain to me the benefits of it?
I guess I'm on the fence either way, whether we have a boat or don't have a boat. This is a long-standing discussion throughout the department and the reasons why we are where we are. There is benefits. We're not the only town on the river that has a boat. Well, speaking that if we had a boat, Tarrytown, I believe, has a boat. Croton has a boat. Multiple jurisdictions across the river have boats. I believe Irvington has a boat. The county has a boat that's on the river all the time. Manny, it's like the county wants to own the river. So, sometimes I listen to boat calls and we know that boat one's going to be on the scene and it's like they're jumping calls, but that's not my problem. Again, I'd like to see it be a combination if that could be worked out. You know, the reasons why it's not getting worked out, I don't know. And it could be a little sticky, I guess, but if it's worked out and guidelines are set up and both us and police come back, or fire and police, I'll separate myself a little bit. If fire and police come back with some sort of a program that can be agreed upon, and then maybe it would make sense to have the boat. It doesn't make sense not to have the boat, but you know, with again, the amount of calls, you know, who knows? You could not have calls, and we could have 20 calls next summer. We don't know. You know, it's just, it's an unknown. So now I could make a case both ways. So I'm probably gonna abstain from that vote, just because I can see both sides of it. You know, that's just where I stand. I'm not for it. I'm not against it. You know, so I think my best bet is to just abstain from it. If there's any other questions, I'll try and help you understand.
So I guess what I heard is other municipalities have boats. The county has a boat, but I'm still not clear what the boat is for. Is it like if there's a fire on the water, like if there's a boat?
Fire rescues, you know, there's a multitude of things that you could be used for. You know, what's a fire truck used for? Fire rescue.
Right. But most of Ossining is inland. So that's what I'm trying to understand. Like if you were to say we need a plane, and I'm like, okay, you need a plane. Ossining not that big, but I see you can get from place to place faster with a helicopter or whatever. But if it's just on the water, is it just for water? Like if
well, it's a boat. It's a boat. It's for water. I mean, we do have a section of the river that's out in front of us. That would be our district. If there's a call, there was a call a couple of weeks ago. We don't have a boat, but our fire chief is involved if it's in our area. So they call our fire chief. He's now in command, but the other boats that come, you know, they're under his command. Where it'd be, if our boat was out there, it'd be our call. You know, and if we needed help, we'd call for people. So if it happens out in front of Ossining, it's ours.
But at the same time, Bob, I mean, I don't want to keep going because there's more stuff that we need to go over. But, you know, at the same time, I want to go back a little bit of what you said, the reason why we need a utility truck. Sure, a fast team's response, and we go to the municipalities to help out. So through the years that this boat is being part of the budget, all the municipalities have come to Ossining to help. So I think to me is look, I don't want to go back to the history. I mean, we don't, you know, we can have a deeper discussions whenever this comes back again next year. And maybe by then will be maybe a different conversation, maybe. But right now, I just don't see the need of a fire boat.
Right. Well, we also always had a boat until 9/11, and then our boat was taken over by the feds, and it got ruined. So, and that's when I believe Chief Stenick came in front of everybody, wanted this, you know, this tugboat thing coming. He was nuts, you know. So
no, remember the fire boat was taken over by the police department as well, you know, because they could, you know, again, I don't want to go through the history of this.
Yeah, that was after 9/11.
That's correct, but that's not really, because when I was here in 2012, we didn't have that already. So, but anyway, so look, there's a lot of history, Omar, on this. You know, it's always been conversations that the fire department and OPD want to work together and they want to have a vote. Through the years, I just haven't seen any consistency and bringing back a plan. And I remember the conversations where the police chief came over on Thursday last week when we were going over his budget, part of the capital projects. I believe, I don't want it, my recollection is correct, there was no conversations about fire boat or a new fire police boat either. So you know,
there was no conversation, but it was brought up as and I believe, Dale, it was brought up, and he made the comment of, well, there's really no discussion about that right now.
Okay. So that goes back to there was no really a conversation. So again, that's more history to us. So
I think, Omar, in short, there is a request for pieces of equipment which comes out in the budget. There are deeper stories to that. There hasn't been a plan put together on a collaborative effort between the police boat concept and the fire department concept. We have a waterfront. I would not call it huge, but it is there. It's a river town. Both our neighbors to the north and south have boats. And as you heard, we do share. The guys really share. You know, we have things that Croton doesn't have. Croton has things that we don't, et cetera, et cetera. But the collaborative effort between the departments for a full plan, not just like we need 2 pieces of equipment. That's not a plan. A collaborative plan, maintenance, training, who does what, whose jurisdiction, et cetera, hasn't been really well thought out or brought forth to the board. And it seems like the majority thinking here is until we see something like that, regardless of the history, not so comfortable with a thumbs up on it, is the way I would summarize it. Bob, is that a fair summary?
Oh, absolutely. The only thing that, you know, I know you keep mentioning neighbors, but also remember that we are all volunteers.
Yeah.
Which doesn't guarantee our neighbor's boat getting out. Doesn't guarantee us getting out. I would find that I'd find that hard to believe that we'd have a problem getting anything out. Our response time is beyond unbelievable, but you know, so and I'm not saying it to advocate for it. I'm just making a point of clarification. That's all.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. That's why I said to the north and to the south, look, we're never going to have everything, every piece of equipment, every kind of truck,
Right.
And nobody will. Even if we weren't volunteer, we wouldn't. And then there's all the training and the expertise. There's the scuba guys that have to be trained because it's a boat, blah, blah, blah. Like I've looked at a couple of reports about this. I'm just summarizing because Omar asked the question, but I just want to make sure that I'm summarizing it in a fair way. And I think
you are.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with your summary.
All right.
Okay.
What I'm hearing is
So let's go to the next one.
go on the boat, and the next item was the rescue bailout bags, which we said, like, just go ahead and order those right now because
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
next week or something. And they really never get close to expiration.
Nope. Thumbs up.
So we're done with fire.
Yep. What's the total for the fire department, Dale? For all the requests that we just approved? Should I do a quick math in my head? If you're scrolling, I'm getting a headache.
I know, I can't.
I can do it in my head. Just give me a second. 60, 800, a million, a million two,
1 point.
a million two.
Yeah.
With the
Okay.
43, yeah.
All right, thank you.
So am I moving the fire boat over, pushing it out to 2022? To leave it on the schedule?
I would I mean, my personal is I would in hopes of there being future discussions and that we can get them together to
Agreed.
come back next year.
Agreed.
Okay, I'll move it on over. And this will be moved over to the left on the final.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next up is Recreation and Parks. This is a Parks Department pickup truck with plow. Bill, are you there?
I am.
All right. Hi, Bill.
Hello, everyone. So that's looking to replace a 2003 truck that we currently have.
I'm just going to ask a question. We just approved one for DP, so each department has its own truck with plow, right? You have one, it's different than the DPW ones. You all have different ones, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Bill, what's wrong with the truck?
It's a 2003. You've seen the truck. It's the current water truck that does we have the water tank in the back of it. We use that
No, but
to.
is there any mechanical reasons why?
Yeah. Yeah,
But
it's
that's
in
what
real,
I'm
it's,
asking. Yeah.
yep, no, it's in bad shape.
Okay. Fair enough. And then there's, oh, I see. The other, there's a pickup with a plow, and then there is the dump truck with the plow. That was in 2020. Did we purchase that, or because of the pandemic, it wasn't actually completed as a transaction?
Right, it was on hold.
So it's 2 trucks with plows.
Or if we could purchase that in this year. The dump with, the dump with plow.
So if we do that, then you don't need the other truck with a plow,
Oh,
correct?
No, we need more than one truck with the plow. The Parks Department does all the parking lots, the municipal parking lots during the snow. So that would give us 3. We have 1 truck now with a plow. So that would give us 3 trucks, 3 plow trucks.
But you have 3 plow trucks right now as well.
Right. So that dump that the dump truck with plow, that would replace a current 2006 where the dump does not work on that truck.
Oh.
And the cost to replace that would be a lot. So we've avoided doing that.
Okay.
That truck could stay in service as a plow truck,
It could.
right?
Yeah,
You don't
it-
need to
it-
dump for snow. I mean, you can put if it has a plow on it currently.
Yes.
Okay. So if it's still running good, that's all you need to plow with. I mean, I would think I would keep that, would keep it as, either a backup plow truck or, if you want to bring 4 guys in to plow, you got them in.
Right.
Is that something that you have thought about it? Or you were about to sell that truck if we were to replace it?
Well, we would look to surplus that. Just to have the truck, the dump, to have the dump truck is important. A working dump truck, I should say.
But except for the dump not working on a truck, is it, what year is that vehicle? And is
It's an 06. It does have problems. Not as much as not as much as the pickup, the 03 pickup, but it does
Okay.
have some mechanical issues. So we've been spending some money on it, getting it fixed from time to time. And it'll be 14 years old.
Now, this kind of trucks, obviously, not to take anything away from, but there's no way electric cars could be replaced or electric trucks could be replaced with this, sure.
Yeah.
Just because of the power, the amount of stuff that you have to do with the snow and everything else, sure.
Honestly,
don't know.
Manny, they haven't come out with electric vehicles that are utility. They've come out with transit buses. I'm sort of always fascinated by electric, vehicles. These kind of vehicles, this hard, what I call worker utility types, they still, New York City tried it out in their parks department. It doesn't work well.
No.
And for the record, I'm a big fan of electric, so if I thought it worked, but to be really accurate, it's they haven't been as successful on the utility.
I understand
So
that.
I don't think it's worth looking at it yet. Maybe in a couple of years it's going to be okay, but not we're not there yet. I don't think.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Appreciate the question though.
Now, the last question on this one, Bill, why, so you have one also in 2022 for the same parks pickup truck with a plow.
Well,
Right. So we're looking to we're we also have another 06 truck, another pickup. So we're looking to get, to replace that after, 14, 15 years of use. And then adding the plow to the truck is not a lot more. So it does give us the flexibility of having more trucks out with plows. Also, if you have a plow or a truck that goes down, you've got one that's a backup. Okay.
So what are we doing? Are we?
I'm okay with it.
I think the message here is that we're not mechanics. We're not like experts in this, but people coming to us and saying it's 15 years old is not a reason for trucks. Trucks can last 25 years. It's got to be a cost issue or something that actually realistically says, this truck doesn't work, or an accident or whatever. So it's just a little bit hard. I think that's what you're hearing hesitations about, because 15, 13 years doesn't really mean anything. It could be perfectly good truck. And we're trying not to spend, the public's money unless we have to. So I'm okay with it. It's, we'll see about 22. Okay. Anything else?
So we'll move that one over.
And
But it was,
I don't know if
this one in 2020 should be paid now, right, Dale? There's
Right.
3 trucks here. One should be paid this year, right?
This one was already funded last, for this year. Yeah.
Right. So that's done. That's not the issue here. The one we're talking about is the one for 21,
Yes.
42.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
All right. So we'll move that over to the board approved column. Next up is the 4x4 SUV for rec superintendent for 40,000.
Oh, again, Bill, what's wrong with the car? What's wrong with the car you're driving?
What year is that?
That is a 13. So what the rationale behind this is that the rec department had another vehicle, a Tahoe, that lived well beyond its expectations, and it was retired this year. So it just became unsafe. We're putting a lot of money into that. So the plan would be that the current 2013 Explorer would then become the rec staff car, and that's used by the park ranger. It's used by the staff when they go to different parks or different programs. So that's where that's coming from. There's no other vehicles available to take the place of that Tahoe, so that's what we're looking at with
why?
that.
Okay, but I get that, but I wasn't aware that you get a car that the superintendent has a full-time car. I'm just wondering why it says recreation superintendent under the 4x4 SUV. I was not aware that that's something that the superintendent of rec gets. A car, is that a full-time car for you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not aware that that's actually what we do. Is that what we do?
We
As
have
part of, I'm sorry?
for as long as I've been here.
When we looked at this, I remember doing this with Sawyer. I don't remember that that's a part of the compensation.
Yep, Henry Atterbury had one, Chris Soy had one, Bill has one.
But it's not part of their agreement, I guess. So to me, it should just, if we're going to be adding a vehicle, and I'm going through all the rest of the vehicles, because sometimes we do have like a police vehicle that we can use to replace that that extra vehicle from there, or something that we could use and recycle the other vehicles instead of sending them out. So I'm not sure if the rationale, as Bill put it, it works for me right now. And obviously the vehicle that you're driving, Bill, as your personal, as a vehicle for your main vehicle, I guess, for transportation. So.
And
but okay.
I would have another, so I think this is maybe something we have to take up with Karen, actually. The other piece of this is is this a vehicle? And maybe the answer is no, because maybe, I don't know where you use it, but is this a possibility if we're buying new for an EV, for an electric on this one? Well, I'm just looking for possibilities if we're going to go new. Since I actually, Bill, don't know exactly what it's used for. So is there a possibility for it to be electric?
I don't know much about electric vehicles. So I can't really comment on that, but I suppose it could be for sure.
Well, what do you normally use it for?
For the car, it's so when I was hired, it was part of the package.
Yeah, I know, but forget that part.
What do we use it for? So what I use it for is going around to the different parks. It is a car that I use I take home, and if there is ever some reason that I would need to come in. I know when I first came here and I was talking to Chris Soy, the former superintendent, he explained it to me as, if there was a need to get in because of bad weather, because of the community center being a place that might need to be open or need to be staffed, or for us to be there, that to have a four-wheel drive vehicle would be a reason, would be something you might need to get in if it was inclement weather.
All right, so I think we could probably discuss, unless there's like enough votes, I don't know how we're doing this, but it seems to me that if a big part of the mileage is that it's your vehicle, if the weather is that bad, it's just, if Maddie's on the line, she just went through this whole thing with and I guess you weren't there. If there's an opportunity, that would be sort of nice to drive around and maybe put the emblem on it. It's like a nice thing. Although at $40K, Maddie, I don't remember what you paid for the other, and I don't mean you personally. I'm not sure it's more economical or less. Theoretically, it's less economical, because I remember what you paid for the other two. Plus, there's no maintenance, obviously, because it's electric. Anyway, I think it's worth looking at. So two separate conversations happening here. For me anyway.
Right.
I guess what I'll ask the board is, like, are we looking into purchase a new vehicle for this and just transfer this vehicle to replace the other vehicle that is pretty much at the door?
Are you saying as far as recycling what he has and staying with the SUV, or we're looking for electric? And
forget about the electric. I think the electric is definitely something that we should look into it, because to me, this is not, we're not plowing anything,
right.
We're not doing any hard work on this vehicle, if the purpose is for the superintendent to use while working in the village, I don't see the need of having, anything crazy, but definitely an electric car will make sense. I'll agree with Rika.
Well, I didn't conclude that. I'm just saying I'd like Maddie to look at it.
Yeah,
Bill.
no.
I'm
That's what
not
I'm
here.
saying.
I don't
Yeah.
know enough about it. I'm
Yeah.
just looking at it.
No, and that's what I'm saying as well. I'm not talking about the electric. If that becomes, yes, I'm talking about we are looking into replace his vehicle with this new one, and his vehicle will go back to, replace the previous vehicle that he just stated in regards to the maintenance and replacing the other vehicle.
Yeah, we actually did a little bit of research on this right before the pandemic about it's like 2 items down on the list, the water administration SUV. And we did put in a request to Office of General Services and did a mini bid. And we got what I thought was a very competitive price on, I think it's a Ford Escape hybrid. I'm not sure
Oh,
exactly. It was in the low 30s. I don't remember exactly. I can go back and look. But you know, if we could, you know, certainly do something like that again, if that's the direction the board was looking to go.
no, I'd like us to be a very green village, if at all possible. And as we go into new, I think the question is always, can we do electric or not? It's $100 a month easy. I mean, I'm being really conservative savings on oil and gas and all that easily. And of course, zero emission, always a nice thing.
I think
So,
because of the distance though, I mean, I think, you know, for take home vehicles, we have to think more seriously about hybrids than, you know, a full electric, because the full electrics work great for the code enforcement because they're just sort of, you know, tootling around the
Right.
village. But for ones that have to, you know, put major mileage on as take home vehicles, you know, a hybrid might be a good half measure.
So
Yeah.
is this something that we could, since this is my first budget, actually second, but first one I could actually talk. Can we put that as a placeholder until we, and not order this? Because I'm assuming his vehicle's fine for right now. And then move forward with looking into the options of a hybrid.
Yes, we can do that.
We can
Yeah.
move that over, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And as a placeholder, and then we'll do our homework.
Yes.
well, it's just
Absolutely.
an analysis and it could be done. It would be nice.
Right.
It'll
But
be
you understand what
helpful.
I'm saying? Instead of just saying,
Yeah.
oh, we're just buying a Ford Escape or a Ford Explorer and we're done. You know, I think we should weigh our options out. We'll use that as a placeholder. And if it comes in at 30,000, we save 10 grand.
Right. And that's what we did last year, and we ended up not replacing some cars. And when we do
Yeah.
replace, we're you know, we're getting the most mileage out as we can of our existing vehicles, but then as we can replace them, if we can go to electric or hybrid, given the usage, that is absolutely the way we're going.
Okay.
I have a question. My question is from, I'm just trying to understand what our position is from an equity perspective. So Bill gets a car. Who else gets a car?
Take home vehicles are the village manager, the water superintendent, the engineer, and the rec superintendent. And it's based on requirements to be here during emergencies. So it's not as much of a compensation of you know it's not as much compensation as it is the idea that those are positions that are required to be here in circumstances that, you know, are emergency because they're opening the rec center, water main break, whatever that might be.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's been historically established.
Yeah, let me just add a couple of thoughts to that.
Interesting.
There are other vehicles that certain people take home if they're on call.
Right.
Also, people that don't you know, report directly to Karen, obviously the police department and fire chiefs.
Right.
Correct. Yes.
One of the things that we have done differently, because it was requested by one task manager and considered by another task manager, is the option of, and other communities do this, if there's someone on the staff that, as Karen was saying, is required to be here in an emergency circumstance, therefore the village says it is imperative that you have the ability to get here and have a you know, an operating vehicle to be able to get here, that they could get a monthly stipend. Abe wanted a monthly stipend, and because that's what he had in his previous job, and he had a lovely car, and he really liked to drive, and he wanted to be able to continue to get a stipend that offset his expense, but he was then required to make sure that he was using that stipend to have a dependable vehicle. So that's something that could be considered for some of those positions going forward.
Got it. I guess where that all makes sense, and this is the last thing that I'll say on it, is that one quick note with respect to an electric vehicle, I don't know what it would mean then in terms of changing the hookups or creating hookups at Bill's house. And does it, because he's thinking at home, right? And so I don't know what that means. I don't know what the cost involved with that is, or maintenance or whatever. Maybe Riga, having electric vehicles, you know.
Yeah, like $320 all in.
Okay.
You can use a wall outlet. I mean, you could plug it
Yeah.
into your wall. That would be zero expense. If you wanted to have the 220, it's $320 for an electrician to put it in.
Got it. But then we'd have to contribute toward his electric bill.
Yeah, it's 5 cents a day.
All right, there you go. I guess the larger point for me is like, if that's all, it's fine. It just sounds a little bit wacky to me because it's like, well, in case of an emergency, well, it's like, okay, I get it, but like, who goes on vacation, right? Does it, or Karen or other people, they go on vacation. And if you were to go on vacation and not be here when an emergency is happening, then who is here in his stead? Who's responsible instead of him? And does that person have a vehicle? How does that work? And so that's where like those kinds of questions where it's like, in case of, it's not like a backup generator that's there all the time. If we need it, we know it's there.
Right.
You know, and it's not a little bit of money. It's a lot of money for, you know, what I hope is, a worthwhile thing. But also to me, it's like, I won't use Bill as an example. It's not about Bill. Whomever the person is, if they're using it as their personal vehicle as well, it's all the liabilities that come with that, right? You go out, you're celebrating, you drink a little, you get an accident, boom, village vehicle. Oh, and it's like, you know, so that's where my mind goes. But again, that's all I have to say.
Well,
You are not supposed to do that with a village vehicle.
Well, you're not supposed to do that
Not
with
allowed.
any vehicle. So here's the thing, Omar. About a year ago, or it's probably longer, probably about 3 years ago, I would say. Victoria's going to correct me if I'm wrong. We had a whole conversation about whether we should have any vehicles for anybody. Because really, that's what you start with when you think strategically about expenses. Why should anybody really have a vehicle? Let's be honest. And how many times has a village manager, and this is not personal, this is before Karen was the village, in what world does a village manager need a souped up 4x4 to what emergency in Westchester County exactly? Okay. Some village managers usually live here, but we've hired ones that were not here, but actually ours does live here. It's different for the fire chiefs. Their cars really are the vehicles that they use to go home, but they really do use them to go to a fire. The conversation was, why can't they all go to the operations center, which is in the village? The village is 3.5 miles, 3.2 miles, as I've learned recently. It's inside. So you take your car, you go to the op center, you pick up any of the fleet of cars. If you need a 4x4, if you need a, you know, whatever you need, and you go to that emergency. Is there really any emergency that we have had in any number of years that requires you to be there, you know, immediately in that time? They are allowed to go on vacation. So like people like the judges who are on call, when they're on call, they have to be on call. They can't like be on vacation and in other parts. The fire guys, you know, they have to coordinate with each other. If there's a fire, they can't all be away, right? There's the chief. If he's not there, he's got a second. You know, there's like a whole thing of protocols. But these vehicles, we had a conversation and said, instead of saying, why should a person have a car that they use for their personal stuff, for their public stuff, for their emergency, why should anybody have them? Like, why don't we just keep them? And by the way, like if we have to go to a conference 4 hours from now, when I went with Quantel Bazemore and he didn't have a car, he said I should be able to use one of those cars because I'm on village, you know, business and I need a car. And we happened to drive together, but we would have got him a car. So there's a whole conversation about what one does with cars. It isn't just about whether it's compensation, because those cars aren't just expensive. They're maintained by us. I work somewhere like you work somewhere. When I need to get my car fixed, I have to go and make an appointment and lose a day of work. That doesn't happen here. So there was a whole conversation. And we sort of came out of it, I'm not sure where, apparently nowhere.
More broadly, Rika, that conversation, as I recall, was the conversation that we had about establishing a vehicle use policy.
Yes.
A list of who gets it and what does it mean and what is
Thank you.
And they're required to cannot be their primary household vehicle. You can't take your kids to camp in the vehicle. But then like the reality of how it ends up being utilized. I really thought we had discussed it so much. I really thought we actually had a vehicle use policy. Karen and Stuart assure me we never actually had one. I don't know.
Yes, I thought so too. I'm letting Omar know that he's not the first one to talk about the different issues of this and the equitable use of really what's public money for vehicles. And and then comes that second part of, well, how big does the car really have to be? You know, I mean, you're right. If it's not worth getting a electric vehicle because someone's home is so far away, it may not work for them, and it's their own house and stuff. Maybe they live in an apartment. They can't even plug it in anywhere, right? So, because it's not about a person, it's about the job. And if somebody has an apartment, they can't use an electric vehicle today. So I guess, Victoria, we can either take some dust off that if we could ever find it, or look at it item by item, which is what we're doing here tonight.
Right. I just, one last thing on that, I struggle with this statement there on call. I have a problem swallowing that because let's face it, if they know a snowstorm's coming, okay, you could take the vehicle that night or that day to guarantee you getting in. And, or whatever it is, or Bill has to come they're expecting a storm, and, you have your big OEM meeting, and okay, you know what, we should set up, and you should take that vehicle, make sure you have it so you can get in. It's just this, they're not on call every day. All right. It's a phrase that's thrown around very loosely, and, I don't see it. I just don't, again, it just adds to the discussion that I think we really need to work on that, a use policy.
You actually asked for that at one point, Bob,
Yes.
that we look at the car usage policy, if I recall.
Yes.
So Omar, your question is one that in a different way has been asked, I think, maybe not answered in full. Tonight was probably not the time to have it, but it may need to go to discuss with village manager to really sit down and think about the car policy.
So,
I would think.
We are past the 8:30 mark. This is
Yep.
marked by tangents, worthy conversations, all of them, but we have really delved into the weeds in a few items that I think are relevant to things in the budget. That's why I always enjoy budget season. But why we always need to budget more time for it. We did such a great job last week that we finished under our allotted time. I'm so not optimistic that that's going to happen tonight.
Yeah, you're breaking up, Victoria.
Yeah, Victoria, it's hard to hear you.
Yeah, and if everybody could mute, I think like Bill and others, if you could mute
Oh,
yourself. That makes it
sorry.
easier.
So I think the question is,
Doesn't have nothing to do with it.
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think the question is, for the purposes of tonight and the what's going in the budget. Remember, a budget is a plan. It's not a firm commitment that we have to pull the trigger on. These things can be discussed again before they happen, especially things that have been discussed now at length. If the plan is we probably need to purchase another vehicle of some kind, let's put that in as a placeholder. But if what you want to say is the board in the new year is going to review a vehicle use policy, and maybe that vehicle won't be purchased. I think you should just say that, but put the money in the budget so that you have the option to consider that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I think that is the way to go, Victoria. I just think that in the past, and not in the past, but like recently, like things we put in the budget that we use those words somehow end up being, well, it's in the budget and we're staying within the budget. So I want to be very clear and go on the record of saying, we're going to look at a car policy because Bob has asked for it more than once. And it comes up every year when we get into these discussions. And it's just time to have one that needs to include the village manager and, is to partake, not just the board, about how we want to deal with cars in general. The whole electric car, whatever, that's already sort of been discussed, but it could just be thrown in there. But I think we're actually in agreement on that, I think. So I'm all for that. I just want to say it again, that it is a placeholder. It is not to be spent. And neither should these trucks without it coming back to the board.
So Dale, in the case of the personal use vehicle for, I think Bill's is the only one that's come up this year that's proposed for the 2021 budget.
For this year, yeah.
Right.
Can you identify in the how funded, can you put a comment, and we're not looking at that screen right now, but wherever it is.
Yeah.
That, oh, there it is. Okay. That, I don't know if you can put it underneath or instead of where it says debt, ban, or bond, say dependent upon or contingent on vehicle use policy discussion.
Sure. Yep.
Even though I know all of the key players that would be part of that decision are on this call right now, but to justify the last 20 minutes of conversation, I'd love to see it actually written in the budget.
Thumbs up. Great.
I'm unmuting so you can hear my laughter.
Thank you.
I think we're all in agreement.
All right. Next up, Bill has 2 pieces of equipment. These 2 items are currently in the operating budget to be funded, but they are part of the other schedule that I was putting out there to have these 2 items funded from fund balance.
Yeah.
One is
I swear, I thought we already approved this, like in one of our meetings, the mower and stuff. Like, I feel like that was already a 2020 thing. I guess not.
Nope, it's in for 2021, but they did come up when we went through Bill's budget. But they're reflected here in the capital schedule as well. Because instead we can use fund balance instead of using operating funds.
Great.
133,000.
Yes. Yep.
Great.
We're good with that?
I'm doing a thumbs up on that.
All right. Nice. Oh, I think Victoria gave me 2 thumbs up.
You sure that was a thumb up there? What's happening? I have to look. I can't see
Who else? Who else is a thumb? Okay, next on the list.
So Wrexham Park, can you give me the total of what we approved, please? Let's see, where are we?
We're at 42, 40, and 11,800 and 8,000.
Okay.
So that's 101,800.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. The next in line is, we had this on hold for the water department. That is still on hold for 2020. So that's.
What is that?
That's water administration. So it SUV, that one was electric or hybrid.
What is it? Who's it for? What's it for? What is it?
It was, I'll say it was for me, it was gonna be a Ford Escape hybrid. My truck's got 100,000, but like I said to the village manager, if we need to push it off a year, we push it off a year. I know it was
Well, that
approved.
yeah.
Dale,
So that
did you,
goes into the same conversation we just had.
Dale, was that money put aside for this year already and borrowed or no?
That was funded from water fund surplus in 2019 for the 2020 capital project.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So
Similar.
So, but hold on a second, Rick. I know this is similar, but it's not the same because this already was approved in 2020's budget
Yes, and funded.
and funded. So it's not the same as the discussion that we just had with the parks vehicle.
Right.
Well,
We borrowed for it. It was intended to be paid for.
Correct. No. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying this vehicle was already approved in the 2020 budget.
right. It's the superintendent. It's his car though. It's not. It's the same idea though that we just went through.
No, it's the same concept that you were talking about.
Right.
Again, so there's a vehicle policy that we've been talking
Right.
about for at least 3 times in my tenure here. So there's a different discussion to have. Sure, there's that and who's driving and what now. So, but yeah, that could take a couple more conversation pieces, I guess. But I'm not debating that we should not have a vehicle policy. But
All right, so
But
that
no,
could be the same. That's fine. Got it.
We should have that conversation about the vehicle use policy. I would just point out one difference for the water superintendent versus some of the other positions. It's harder to predict when there will be a water main break than when there will be a snowstorm.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But but I'm understanding this right. This is budgeted already to have, if we didn't have COVID, this vehicle would be in the village right now, correct?
correct.
That's correct.
So, and this is funded,
Yes,
all right?
Well,
And,
okay.
well, it's budgeted to
Right.
be paid for. They just, Andy or whoever decided, you know what, let's hold it off because of COVID.
yeah,
So, you know, I think we make the decision, either we go with it, or we put in that what's already funded as a placeholder for something this year in 21.
By the way, Andy, what happens to your car, the one you have now?
My car will either go to maintenance or it'll go to the building department. So
Got it. Okay.
that's kind of how it's been for my 18 years here. Like, I usually get to about 100, then 100,000 miles, then it goes to another department. And in fact, like, building department's using my truck from 2009 and it has over 200 something thousand. So
Right.
we get our money's worth.
So,
Yeah.
so let me, and I don't want to keep going back into a circle, but let's say we don't, you buy this vehicle, sure, that there was already funded for 2020, and that vehicle, instead of going back to the building department, because we really don't need anything in the building department right now, but it goes to parks and recreation, for them to use as an extra vehicle that for the ranger to use, or just for that. So for that matter, that will work as well, correct?
Yeah,
It could work.
we've done that in the past. I mean, the Tahoe that they use now, I drove that 18 years ago. So, yeah, yep.
You should be like a commercial for the cars that last forever.
So the point is, we're going to continue to hold these until we determine where we are at with other budget items. Right now, we're going to try to be as efficient as possible, but we're going to make sure we're safe with the cars too. But I do think it is really prudent to relook at this and figure out how we can make this more efficient, utilize more fuel efficient cars. And I am supportive of going forward in the new year, looking at a policy for this.
I agree with the policy part of it. Again, this was budgeted for this year, and we can help wreck or whatever with Andy's old car. I don't understand why we're not moving forward, since it was budgeted for this past year, why we aren't just moving forward and getting this vehicle and helping the rec department out, easing their strains while we're figuring out what we're going to do with his vehicle.
Yeah, I think that's something that we'll look at.
All right, so the next one is the water distribution 4x4 truck. That was budgeted for this year. The money was put aside. We put it on hold because of COVID, and we're just trying to get it in this year. Just having a hard time finding it through the joint ventures, the county bids, that kind of stuff. So we're still working on it. But the
So
money,
that's just the ability to find one. That's nothing to do
yeah,
with.
and it's kind of
Okay.
late. Yeah, because COVID kind of screwed it up, and
Yeah.
they didn't have the same state bids, so the money's there.
Okay.
We're trying to find exactly what we need.
Okay.
okie dokie. So now on to public improvements. This has been forwarded on each year on new or expanded existing firehouse facilities for the 750,000.
I don't know what it is. What is it that we're approving for 750?
Believe that was correct me if I'm wrong, Victoria or Manny. I believe that was a placeholder for a starting process for engineers or architects or whatever. Or,
That's exactly what it says right here, Bob. Architect engineering services.
Yeah.
It's consolidating Snowden and monitor hoses. So it's a soft cost planning.
right. That's what I meant. Soft costs. Like, thank
When
you.
they did the presentation, I thought it was a lot less than this for some reason. I guess I just misunderstood. It wasn't 750.
Mayor?
Yes, please.
I think the 750 was a placeholder, and if I'm not mistaken, is derived from 10% of an estimated construction cost of $7.5 million. Which I think was some of the early numbers thrown around when they first started throwing the concept project around during the planning board application of the developer. But either way, with or without that project, I think that was the envisioned budget for the new building that would be erected to accommodate the two companies rather. And this was the 10% soft cost as mentioned, and would be followed, if approved, would end up creating construction documents that would have the balance of the capital budget, which would include the bricks and mortar and then the construction management component.
Okay. And we've had a placeholder, whether it was 750 or whatever it's been for over the years. We've had a placeholder here for many, many years. Right. So this, like, having the placeholder here, saying, yeah, let's just keep carrying this on is like, yeah, maybe.
So okay. All righty.
Okie dokie. Unfortunately, we still do not have a cost for replacing the air conditioning at Cataract Hose Firehouse. So it's still in as a to be determined.
Andy, did they get in touch with you about that? Any of the fire chiefs?
No.
All right. All right. I can't see why we can't get a bid on that, so we'll work with them to get that done soon.
Okay. Andy, do you want to speak on the firehouse generator at Holo Hose?
Yeah, the firehouse generator was designed and bid. It wasn't bid, but it was designed and sized for Hollow Hose last year. We put it on hold because of the $140,000. It's a lot of money to put into a firehouse, but it was at some point thought about being an emergency shelter. So that came up, and previous managers had talked about it, and they were going to talk to the fire department about it. So I don't know where it stands, but it's $140,000 to install a generator. It's just a matter if the board wants to go through with it or not.
I think the conversation I remember us having much more in depth last year about the firehouse generator was, what exactly is this providing? It's not such a different conversation from what we talked about with how much of a generator do we need to have at 16 Croton Avenue. Is the firehouse, we could just open the doors and make sure that the equipment was going to be able to stay charged and be able to run. But then the other question is, does the whole building have to be fully functional? And I assume the $140,000 would make the building fully functional, so that if there are firefighters who are there overnight during a storm, which they often do, is stand by overnight in the firehouse, that they would have all of their normal ability to function in the building, right? This $140,000 is like fully operational.
It was a fully functioning generator for the whole entire building. You know, heat, and it did have a higher requirement of power usage. So that's kind of how that went. And it was like going to be the first of however many firehouses that at one time previous boards had talked about doing one generator a year for each firehouse, and it was the first one, but it's it's prioritizing things. So the design won't go bad if you guys decide to put it off a year. I mean, it's there and it's designed.
When headquarters was built, headquarters has its own separate generator when that was built. And I believe that is the only building that has generator capacity right now. For all the obvious reasons.
You're correct. That is the only one that has full backup.
And that's obviously the most recently built one. So if we were to build another new building, it would probably have a generator incorporated.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But we only actually own 5 houses, right?
Correct. You have Cataract, Hollow Hose, Monitor, and the north side.
Right.
And headquarters.
So headquarters already has one.
Yep.
We're obviously not going to do anything north side because that's what we just put $750,000 to potentially design something. So it's really just Cataract, Hala, and what's the other one I'm not thinking of?
Well, you got Monitor, but Monitor could be, that's another one that if we end up, consolidating, that's to me would be wasted money on Monitor.
Right. So then the potential is that we could do this at Hollow Hose and at Cataract, and then the only other things might be caught up in the other giant investment in maybe a 3-company house on the north side.
Right.
All right. I guess I wouldn't take it out. We've had it there for a couple of years and it hasn't moved forward. I would say keep it in, but then Andy, when the design for this was done, I know we had the conversation, but was there consideration in the design for anything less than fully operational building?
Yeah, we looked at that. There wasn't much of a price difference because you still had to put all the infrastructure in. You still had to put the pad in. You still had to run the conduits out to that part of the property that needed to be far away, and there was a lot to it. So we were like, at that point, the previous village manager looked at it and said, let's go with the full package. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was maybe like 20% more in work. And to have full capacity, that's why it was that number.
Is the maintenance of it in an ongoing way more a greater burden or liability for us to have the full system? I understand the installation would be not a big difference, but with the maintenance going forward of having a full generator versus the minimum just to keep the building functioning, is that a big difference?
No, like the maintenance on these generators that are full of that size it's about $700-800 a year for a maintenance contract. The generators start up once a week. It's an automatic transfer switch automatically. And with that being said, it's not a big deal.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Because we know Cataract's on the horizon. So, and this has been, I believe, 2 years sitting here. Am I correct with that for Hollow Hose? This would be the second year, or this would be the third year?
No, I'd say it's at least, I don't know if it's the third, but it's definitely the second.
Okay, so, me, I like to buy in bulk. I'm just wondering if a package deal, since we know Cataract is on the horizon, and, would we get a better price for 2 buildings being done? Then that just leaves us with 1 to be done if and when we build a building. And then the generators are, I don't know. I don't know if it's cost wise, if they're going to do the 2 jobs, as a contractor, I would think, I would take the 2 jobs and give them a better price, but I don't know.
And well, at least on the engineering side, right, we spent between 15 and 20,000 for the design and the CM work that they're going to help me with, the construction management. That's already paid for. So we would have to lay out another 20,000 for Cataract. And before we do that, we better make sure that we're going to do Hollow Hose too, So I don't know if we want to go with this. I just don't want to design too much ahead.
No, I understand. It's just an idea. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'll do whatever, but it's just, if we're going to be committed, we're going to be committed.
Agreed.
Yeah. We didn't expect, what went down.
No, nobody did. So I just was throwing an option out there. That's all.
Yeah, no, and if it was like trailer mounted and it was plug-in type generators, yeah, buy two, get a better deal. But there's definitely two different sizes, and
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Hollow is much bigger.
yeah.
When you guys do get to Cataract, just be aware that Cataract currently has their outbuildings built on the state right-of-way for the aqueduct. So be careful not to put anything too permanent in that property, just in case the state ever comes and decides they want to take their land back.
Oh, they'd have to put it on the roof.
Okay, I'm just saying it because I won't be in the room at that time, and I am aware
Okay.
of Aqueduct Trail.
Right. Thank you. And that's showing over here, they put Cataract in for 2022.
Right.
So that's on that next following page. So I guess, did we reach a consensus on this? We're just holding it for now? For Hula Hose or moving forward?
What happens right now
Oh, what do you mean? What happens?
if there's no power at Halla Hose?
If there's no power at Hollow Hose, they would probably have to relocate the truck. Hopefully that it wasn't a village-wide outage. They'd probably have to relocate the truck somewhere so they could keep it charged. And if it's during the winter, I guess the crew would want to, that's on standby, would want to stay somewhere warm, I would think. I could give you 100 reasons.
I guess my question is, Andy, you're just mentioning it's a portable generator on a trailer. We do try to spread out our firehouses, and it's not often that the entire village is without power for long periods of time. And in fact, emergency services locations have many more redundancies and are much less likely to have power outages for any length of time. It's a lot of money to invest. I understand if there's a fire and more than one of our firehouses or multiple firehouses are unable to get their vehicles to keep their vehicles up and running, that's a huge life safety issue. But has that happened before? And if it were to happen in the future, could that better be addressed, much more cost effectively be addressed by having a generator on a trailer that can go to whatever building it needs to be at where there might be an extended loss of power, whether that's Halla Hose, 16 Croton Avenue, Cataract, at this point, North Side where it is right now, or even one of the firehouses that we don't own but we need our fire trucks to be able to get out. That's more versatile.
I'm okay with that. It's, like you said, what's the chance of every firehouse or multiple firehouses being out of power at the same time? You can have it designed so that there's a transfer switch and it's safely done, and there's a connector on the outside of the building, and there's wire that's hooked up, and it works at multiple firehouses. That's not what this is designed for, but you know what? We didn't bid it yet, and I could have Lindstar look at each individual firehouse that's in question, look to see what voltages and sizing of generators are in common, because one might work at one and not at the other. And then we decide as a group, like, all right, let's go out for bid on 2 trailer mounted generators that will work 5 firehouses. That can be done.
Okay, thanks. I'd be interested to know that.
If that's the case, I'll speak to the engineer and get a proposal. I mean, to me, that makes the most sense. But, I'm not a fireman. I'm not there every day. But in all fairness, if it goes down, within 2 hours, you can have a generator that's in a central location, wherever it is, wherever they decide to keep it, moved over, switched over, and put in place. You might not have it for that instant of when there's an actual emergency and they have to manually open the garage doors, but you'll have it 2 hours after that for the time of the outage. Does that make sense, Bob?
Yeah, and I believe something that will be capable of handling 200 amps could work anywhere, and any of your bigger buildings like Hollowhose, who knows, they might have a 400 amp service. I mean, that might be some a necessity panel that would go in and transfer those circuits over to where you're going to get 200 amps, which is plenty to run whatever you need in that building. And that could be done in all of the buildings, you know, and then you're not worried about, well, did I bring the right generator to there? Did it, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You know, you could just get 200 amp or
And like
whatever.
you mentioned, like the mayor, like you mentioned, there's areas that are, you know, we don't have full control of the property over the aqueduct. If it is a trailer mounted one, it can be moved. Yeah. To me, it makes a lot of sense.
Some of them could be set right on the ramp. You know,
Yep.
some of the ramps, not all of them. You know, I mean, these are logistics we're talking about. Anything could be figured out.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it's worth exploring, but I don't know how to account for that in the budget because that has a dollar amount associated with it. Right? I don't know if you want to keep listing it as the Hollowhose firehouse generator, or make a note of the potential for considering a more versatile option.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep.
Yeah, or just firehouse, multi-use emergency backup generator.
Yeah.
And then we'll bring Lindstar in, we'll take a look at this, and we go from there.
Yeah.
I would still keep that dollar figure in there because you're going to be looking at electrical work in each firehouse. So it's like Bob had mentioned, that could be bid as one bid. All the firehouses at the same time, putting the connectors in, and the automatic and the transfer switches and the dedicated circuits, and then we bid the generator separate. And in fact, we might be able to get that on NJPA, one of those purchasing groups that we get it from.
Great.
But let's get the infrastructure in first.
All right.
Great. Okay, so this leads us to the next page, which is municipal building improvements. So we have file room renovations at the Rodriguez Operations Center for $60,000.
Is that something that's designed, or is this something that we're doing on our own? How is that being done?
We talked to an architect who we're waiting for a proposal to do drawings for the op center, the community center, and the 16 Croton. And then a lot of the work, this is a major construction. A significant amount of the work will probably be done by staff, correct, Andy?
Correct. I mean, we're going to do what we can with staff. Obviously, when it gets into the HVAC, the electrical, outside window changeouts that are commercial grade, that kind of stuff, that needs to be done in the contract. But if there's any interior walls, we could do that ourselves. Painting, sheetrock, that type of stuff. Small electrical. But it's a placeholder because we don't know what type of a plan that this architect's going to come back. We don't know what department is going to be based where until after we talk to the architect and the board agrees and the manager agrees that that's the way we want to go with operations in the future. I think Rika mentioned this in the last meeting we talked about. Let's come up with a plan, but there needs to be placeholders of money. We don't know if it's more or less, but they're guesstimates without having a plan.
So what's this 60,000 dedicated to then? Design and architects and soft costs?
60,000 is just for that room. That would be HVAC. It would change out probably 10 windows, the heating and air conditioning, electrical work, and then changing of doors, than whatever we had left to do ourselves in-house for like
That would
Just
be
that file room.
partitioning.
just that big file room. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of broken out for the rest of the same. So the generator at the municipal building, you know, if that might fit into what we were just talking about with the firehouse, if we're not going to spend 200,000, that might be like, you know, let's look at that in that design, you know, and make that a portable generator.
That's why I was just thinking, because we really, to our last conversation on this, we really only need to make sure, you know, and if we have to move the server, we can move the server, but just to have some ability to make sure pipes don't freeze and people don't trip in the dark. But there's really not a need to have full operations here in the event of a power outage.
Like that would be, you know, there might be use of some battery backup, uninterrupted power sources, right? Something where you have 5 hours of emergency backup for some emergency lighting and the servers. After that point, you lose power. But in between then, you have 5 hours to get the trailer mounted generator over there and get it plugged in. You know, we could think this through. Kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So so these are placeholders. We'll put a plan together, you know, against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. Although I don't know, like, I feel like the elevator is a non-negotiable, like it's a must do, right? So that's not really, I mean, is there a possibility even, as far as what Andy said, putting a plan together about the usage of it, and then you sort of say, what do we need? Is there any way that the elevator might go in a different part of the building than where the shaft is now? No, correct? So
No.
that's sort of like, you have to do that project. I can't,
Yeah,
that's
we would-
not a placeholder.
It just wouldn't work in the other part of the building. It would be so much more.
Of course, I would not think so. Just have to ask. So the rest, I think, to your point, Andy, based on some of the conversations, let's put a plan together that are practical and logical. But the elevator is a must do. It's not a negotiable item here.
Correct. And that whoever the architect is that we feel comfortable, that's part of their spec, to spec that out and to put it in the bid package. But really, the plan is the next step besides putting this money aside.
Okay. I'm okay with that. As long as it's placeholders and not, let's set budget.
Yep.
This
To me,
would
it's
be
pretty
another thing, though, that if, you know, once we get this plan in place, this is going to involve a lot of coordination with staff, coordination with the town, and board input. So there's not, you know, again, placeholders, but fungibility within those placeholders, and, you know, just trying to meet the objectives we had spoken about more broadly about efficient and effective use of space. But I couldn't imagine us going forward without significant engagement from everybody involved.
Remind me, where is the money that was allocated for the community center a couple of years back? I think it was last year.
That is still here, and it's down here under
Oh,
item
here it is.
4.
Okay.
Yep. So
Yeah, I see
that's still available. And
So again, you know, obviously we know this in my recollection, the $100,000 that was there was pretty much, I want to say, for a very similar concept that we are looking here now. Obviously a little bit different because, you know, Karen is breaking it out into looking at different buildings and how to make sure that the spaces are appropriately designed, I guess, into this. So I'm okay with this putting as a placeholder for now, but I think is hopefully by the first quarter of next year, we'll have a better idea and what that looks like. You know, with the youth center coming up, we know that we have to do something in the community center. We know we have to make some changes there and reallocate some spaces. So we know we have to do that. It's not just painting, just not changing the ceiling tiles. It's not just changing the floor. It's more than that. So.
Yeah.
right. Great. Okay. So we'll keep.
Karen, are you sure it's not too ambitious to go at all these buildings this way? Is it more efficient or not too ambitious? I'm
So,
just concerned
you know,
about it's a lot of stuff you were putting here
It's
at
a
all the
lot of
buildings.
it's a lot of stuff, and I agree with you. The problem is when we do it piecemeal, we end up having to do it over, or then we think, you know, so I think that what would be good to do is have, you know, if we had a plan in place that looked, then we have the opportunity of phasing things in or doing things differently if it turns out it costs more, or really thinking about it. But the biggest challenge we have now is, you know, it's almost like we need to have like a comprehensive look to be able to then, even if we want to scale it back, so that we know if we're doing something, it's not, you know, there's just so many different things in play, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's a lot of moving parts. If you want to take files out of 2 buildings to put them into one, then you got to get that file room fixed so that you can move things in there. Then you could have available. I guess so. I'm wondering if you're taking too much on, but if you're comfortable with what you're putting out there, and I think that's a big story for the community. Our buildings where people come to pay bills may not be as sexy as the community center, but it's still important, and it's important to the people that come in there, staff and residents, and we'll tell that story, I think, better than we've done in the past, so that people, you know, because we're trying to make it more usable space for the community too.
Well, exactly. So I think we have to look at the buildings in concert, because every single building has some issue with it because of the way it was built originally or where it's located. And by opening up and thinking more out of the box, we might be able to shift things around that would actually keep the construction costs and redesign costs lower, because we can just use existing space more efficiently. But I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate that. It's just when we try to do it one building by one building, we end up with a very expensive plan for one building and then problems in the
A hodgepodge.
So I you know, I don't know, Paul and Andy, like we you know, Andy especially, we've talked about this a lot and gone back and forth a lot of times. You know, do you have a perspective on that?
My perspective is, we just need to look at the use of the building, right? It's going to take some conversations between the town and the village of like, who's going to go where? Like when I spoke to some of the town, you know, employees upstairs as I was walking around the building, they're like, we really belong with the building department, you know, the tax assessor. We've never seen a tax assessor that's not next to the building department. So there's going to be, you know, obviously there's the town supervisors input and whatnot, but we could really make things so much better for the public, but everybody has to be on board with it. And that's all part of the plan.
It's going to be a lot of conversation too, because the tax assessor works very closely with the receiver too. So you may have to get extra. So, you know, it's going to be a lot of conversations, but maybe with a plan, then we can start getting people used to it and then really figure out the best way to go forward, so that we're not, you know, even if we end up with plans that require more funding or more significant, we know that they'll work better in the long term.
And I think I thought Manny brought it up at the last time we talked about the Capitol, but I think it was him. We talked about like Section 8, like just thinking outside the box. Like, should Section 8 be down in the community center? And if it's closer to the public, and that opens that area for maybe offices upstairs. There's so much to talk about. See where we go.
Just one thing I wanted to mention before we get too far away from talk about the reorganizing of the building and the spaces is we haven't talked very specifically, we did the other day, about big picture goals being to be more largely in 16 Croton is to be more accessible to the public and have the offices where the public needs to interface with staff available on the first floor. PEG money is not included in this because it's not part of our general fund expenses. It's its own fund, and PEG money would cover any changes to the board meeting room, as long as that meeting room is still going to be utilized at some point for public work sessions, for public meetings that are going to be broadcast. So I assume that that's part of the restructuring, but it's something to keep in mind. I think you probably have the right amount of money there right now. It's just going to be, aside from the elevator, which is its own thing. But with all of the discussions we've had about generators, maybe a different kind of generator, different level of generator, a movable generator, and also keeping in mind that the PEG money would pay for board meeting room changes as part of that. I just don't want people to forget that. There's a lot of money in the PEG fund. And, oh, and one other thing, as far as the best use of reorganizing everything, you really should just be one unified Ossining coterminous town village. It came up, so I just wanted to state it.
One more time.
Hold on, where's that in the budget? Because I would like to add that portion in our budget, please.
You have to
You
say
want me to make a note somewhere?
Yes.
yes, you got to remind people that is where we should really be going.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll leave these in as is right now, seeing as they're placeholder holders, and we will adjust as we go through the process for those. There is a $30,000 amount for carpeting for the court offices / rooms. Mhm.
So I want to bring something
Also
up.
going to look at other flooring options too, aside from carpeting. So
I was gonna thank you, Karen. I was gonna say that, because I
Oh,
know
I'm
Rika
sorry.
brought it up last time, and I
Yeah,
think it's very
yeah.
helpful to do
we
that. So,
had talked about
Okay.
it. It may be more expensive, but in the long term, it may be just the better way to go for many, many reasons.
Okay, so I will change that to just say new flooring, and then we can
Yeah.
adjust as we go along.
Yep.
Great. On to the next page. We have no additional items for 2021. Down under total rec improvements, we have other park improvements that Bill is looking for benches for the parks, picnic table and grill for parks, and garbage cans for the parks.
So this came out of the Recreation Advisory Board, the work that they did looking at the parks, and after speaking to the board and everyone aware that the 2021 budget was going to be tough, went for some lower end type of things. One of the feelings they were looking at was to have a commonality between all the parks with garbage cans, looking at more benches, for example, like at Nelson Sitting Park and Nelson Park. And they thought that this would be a relatively low expense to really improve the look of the parks.
I think that sounds great. Where were the grills going to go? Because I don't recall us having grills in any village parks.
We don't. What we're looking for is we've been doing a little bit of work up at Vets Park, where there's that little pavilion area right next to like the skating rink. And the thought was of making that like a little picnic area where you could have a table underneath the little pavilion area there and put in a grill in there.
we do have a grill in Snowden Park.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's what the county put that in when they did the playground.
Yeah, we used to have now I'm losing my, but I think we used to have one in Spada Park as well, and that was removed, I think. But I think is it was removed or still there? I believe it's still there. But I'll have to double check. Talking about Spada Park, the gazebo, Bill. I drove by there and I didn't pay attention to that, but I know there was some pieces, the railing around the gazebo itself was removed, but was never replaced. Do you know why and what happened?
From what I recall, that what happened was it kept getting vandalized. They had replaced it a couple times, and it was then broken. So the thought was, if we just keep it open, it still looks all right, but we don't have to continue to fix that.
That safe?
It's totally safe. It's not like you're gonna fall off of there or anything. It's just a easy step into there.
Bill, the benches, how many benches are you proposing for this amount?
They're about $1,000 each, so about 15.
All right, so I know I believe it was the chamber, the benches down at the riverfront is, you do a memorial bench. Is there any way we could maybe run off that idea and maybe advertise them as memorial benches and then charge them half the cost to have a plaque put on there and maybe just reduce that down to 7,500? I don't know. It's an idea. I have a bench down. Well, no, I don't have a bench. Our family has a bench down the riverfront. I don't remember what it cost, but it was a memorial bench for my father. And I remember there was a fee to it. And I believe it was through the rec department.
From what I recall, that was through the Rotary.
Yes, you're right. You're right. The Rotary. You're correct.
Right. So I don't know if we can, as a village, solicit funds for that. So it would have to be like an outside non-for-profit agency.
Is that true? Somebody help me with that or help us with that?
I think that's a Stuart question.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's a good
Brad
idea.
did a study on this. So like the way we talked about a street sign the other day, we looked at doing like the tree wells with a dedication, and the rec advisory board also put some policies together about like how you get plaques on what items and to honor people and who would qualify for it. They went through this whole thing. But where I come down on it, I think putting benches in, I think the pandemic is with us for a little while longer, and people really do use the parks around here. And so I think putting a few more benches is a good idea. Additionally, to your point, Bob, we should reinstate with the rec advisory and make it more public where there might be opportunities. If people want to honor someone, you might do it with like planting a tree, and that'll be $200. These are the criteria. And Bill, remind me, but I think that they did put a policy together regarding stuff like that, didn't they?
We do. We have the bench and tree policy.
Right. And isn't there a cost to it? Like, doesn't it have a dollar amount attached to it?
It's not specified. So, it depends on, we would go and look at the bench. There's a form that we have, somebody would fill out that form, put down what they would like. Cause it depends on what type of tree they're looking for. The type of bench, is it an 8-foot bench, 4-foot bench? Those are different costs.
But
But
there are costs. I'm just saying. So Bob, they actually did put a program. I was going to say yesterday when we were talking about, for the 10-year-old that we were looking at for the street sign, there are actually other opportunities to memorialize people under different scenarios. That actually has been put in place quite recently. So there is some of that already, but I think just on the village point, I just feel that the parks are getting a lot of usage, and if the pandemic lasts through the spring or part of the pandemic, maybe we get a vaccine, but not everybody has it yet. And I think that the parks are getting used a lot, and I don't know, it seems okay to me. I don't know about 24,000 on garbage cans, but picnic tables and grills are always tricky. How many picnic tables and grills can you get for, what is that, $6,000? That's like not very many.
6,800.
How many is that, Bill?
The picnic tables are around $800 each.
So, and the grills?
I believe the grill was right around $800 to $1,000.
Okay, so you're talking about a handful of them in total.
Yeah.
I mean, 6,800, that's all it buys you.
Right.
I mean, I'm okay with doing this. I don't think this is an excessive use of money. I mean, it's going direct to the people of Ossining. It's not I mean, I'm supportive of it. It doesn't sound like we're even buying that many. It sounds like we're adding and I'm sure some of the older ones probably need replacement anyway. The garbage cans is always a pet peeve of mine. The more you put in, the more garbage there is, the more, there are many communities that ask people to take the garbage home with them, not, just throw them everywhere. But I leave that to the experts on the phone, the opinion about garbage cans. But it seems okay to me, this request.
Was there any plan for any of those grills to go down to the, that's the town, never mind.
Yeah.
I caught myself. That place is hammered every day
Yeah.
with people.
Okay.
So I don't know. I didn't hear anybody else being okay with it. I mean, but are we okay with it, folks?
Are we gonna possibly explore the benches or trees being memorialized? Is that an option that's gonna be thrown out there?
Well, it already exists. You
Right.
could, if you want to memorialize someone, you go to the rec advisory board has something in place. So it would be in addition to that. If you wanted to do something for a teacher of yours, and that's teachers in Ossining, you just go to the rec to Bill, and there are forms to fill out, and they'll tell you what it'll cost to plant a tree in honor of your teacher with something on it.
So maybe we can publish it or have that as it'd be difficult for someone to find. So
Right, that's
we can
what-
make it, yeah, we can make it more,
more publicized somehow.
Yeah.
Now's the time when we actually are going to be purchasing a bunch of benches. So
Yeah.
now's the time to say, if you would like to, this is an opportunity. Here's the
Right.
link to the application, and they're going to be installed in 2021. And isn't this a nice time to?
It's a nice thing that we can push out too. I know Jamie's listening to, look at some of the things that we have done already as examples and highlight different things in different areas of the village. So I think that's a really great idea.
Bill, no, I agree with that. So I have another question for you, and I guess probably for Dell as well. So on 2020's budget, we had allocated to different capital projects to the parks about $800,000 to it. How much of that money was completed? Or how many of those projects were completed?
Are you looking at the column, Manny, for 829, 405? Is that what you're looking at, this stuff over here?
Yep.
Okay.
2020, yeah. Previous,
Yep.
last year's
Yeah,
capital
stop
project.
moving the cursor around, man.
So this, it includes the capital improvements at the recreation center, so we have
No, not Dell, the one
No.
above, the one above that. The one that starts on rolling hockey ring portion right there, yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that total includes this.
Oh, got it, all right. got it.
That's why I
Okay.
started
Got it,
here.
got it. I understand, thank you.
This, Andy could probably speak about, but I believe this just started the relocation of AC chillers.
Yeah, I can give a quick update on that. So that's county, it's county 50% funded. We fund the other 50%. I received 2 proposals I'm going to send to the village manager. 2 different disciplines. One's mechanical engineering and the other one's structural and a little civil and some roofing. It's going to go out as one bid. And after speaking to the county today, if the price comes in less than $250,000, they will fund the soft costs. So it's good news. We're going to move forward on that.
Great.
They're waiting for Army Corps of Engineers to sign off on some right-of-ways. So we're kind of ahead of the curve. We're going to get those 2 engineers on board in the next probably month, and then we'll design it over the winter and bid it, and it'll be a spring, construction.
Just one clarity issue there. It's 125, so 250 total for the project. They wouldn't technically fund the soft cost. They would allow us to use it as our contribution, I think,
Exactly.
which is how it's better stated. And
Out of our 125.
Okay.
Right.
If it comes in less, we don't know until we bid it. So, but it's still a great, amount that they're funding. And the CM with our CM, along with their design, is still going to be less than 10% of the overall cost. So it's, it's a good number.
Is this contributing to the shoring up of the roof? I see that we have, well, pool roof, that's different. Because as I recall, the community center was one of the 3 proposed potential spaces that could be part of community solar for Ossining.
No, this is the storage room next to the gym. This is fixing that roof, rebuilding that roof, moving the chiller onto a concrete pad, a brand new chiller, because that one is 17 years old or 16 years old, fencing around that area, and then using our annual bidder if needed to grade the property so the water doesn't go against that whole vessel and cause the damage that it's caused in the past.
Okay, I understand now. So new roof at the Caputo Community Center gym has nothing next to it. I guess at one time it was listed as a potential park improvement, but what is the condition of the roof at the community center? Could it?
Right. When Russ Watsky did the analysis, who's our consultant, I believe there's 5 years left on the gym roofs.
When did he do it?
He did it probably 3 years ago.
So does that mean there's 5 years now, or does that mean
No,
there's
it
2
was
years
8
now?
at the time I deducted.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah.
No, that's great. Thank
I
you.
think when that, Mayor, I think what you were referring to earlier when the project first made its way onto the list here as a capital potential, there wasn't the full investigation of the leader piping that's interior to the building. But then that was deemed to be a lot of the issue, which was repaired. And then there was also a lot of spot repairs made up on the roof to give it that 8-year life expectancy. So it kind of took away from the necessity of a full roof replacement at that time.
Okay. It also means though that though we listed that as one of our properties that could potentially become community solar, if it's, we don't really need to do the redo for the roof for another 5 years, and community solar couldn't be installed there until that happens.
But it is on our list, that and the op center.
Well, Victoria, we could do it sooner if it made sense. That's the life of the roof. It doesn't mean you couldn't do it in 2 years and put in solar on top, community solar, so the community could benefit from looking into it.
Right, so that's that to be done at the time, if, when the community solar project really comes to fruition, which is supposed to be happening.
It was on the news the other day.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I looked on the village's behalf and Dana met on the town's behalf. We met with a solar consultant from Con Ed. And the question I had for them was they were looking for areas that they can put solar and work out deals with municipalities. And I showed them the community center roof. I showed them the 16 Croton Avenue and then the operations center. Because at sometimes if they're really interested in the area and logistics, they will put money towards the roofing. So looking to hear back from that. I figured why not just ask while we were meeting.
Okay.
And that was 2 weeks ago.
The other thing that we put we shared the information for was NYPA, NYSERDA, and the county initiative. So and they came back with the two that you talked about, the op center, the community center, and then also doing canopy water.
Gotcha.
All right, what's next?
So Manuel, are we still going through these items?
No, going
Or-
back into that. So some of the stuff, obviously, we start talking about early in the year, sure. And we were talking about, and I'm looking at the pool resurfacing portion of
Right.
this. So Bill, update me, I guess, fill me in, and what's the status on that? Because my live recollection was you were supposed to engage with a designer to actually get the details of this, and we were hoping to do this while we were sort of in a shutdown mode or in a slow mode in the community center, but none of that stuff has happened, correct?
Right. So let me just make sure. I have 2 engineer proposals. We had 3. One of the engineers withdrew his proposal, so we're I'm working on seeking another proposal for the design. So that's where we're at with that. There may be some concern about structurally what they might find once they drain the pool. But they said, both engineers that looked at it said they can't really tell until we drain the pool. But they did express some concern about that. The other thing was that we would not have been trying to do the work during when we were closed. We didn't have any proposals at that time through March, April, and May, and kind of in hindsight now, but the pool was one of the programs that we're actually able to run. And even if we had the ability to do that project right now, I don't know if that's something we'd want to do. So hopefully we can get that next proposal, get the bids drawn up, and then be able to pull the trigger on the project in early 21.
So going back to my original question of my recollection was, this $100,000 does not allocate the soft cost for this particular project. So the number you came to us early in the year is not really a realistic number anymore. And especially now that we are going to year 2021, the construction cost obviously has, the construction itself is going to be different now. So the $100,000 is not a real number anymore, correct?
Well, the bid, or the estimation that we got to give that budget number was $85,000. So factoring in there the soft costs would allow us $15,000.
So how much, and I don't want to, after this, I don't want to drag this information, the discussion more until we actually, we get some real numbers. But out of the two people that you already got prices, what is the average proposal that you got from the engineers so far?
16.
Okay, so that right there is above the $15,000, correct?
Pardon?
That right there is above the $15,000 soft cost that you had estimated.
Correct.
Okay, all right. We can have another discussion, I guess, sometime next year again. I'm good, Dale. Thank you.
Dale just had to take a quick break. She will be right back.
Manny, you did ask about the other projects that we did.
I think I just want to get an update. Yeah, if you could just give us an update through the email, because right now it's close to 10 o'clock.
Sure.
And I've literally been in call since this morning. And I want to finish at least the capital projects portion of this.
Sure.
I don't have access to the screen share, but while we're here, any other questions?
I guess we're meeting on Saturday.
What?
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at my calendar. With Diwali.
How much more do we have tonight?
We haven't talked about the fee schedule.
And then we have open discussions to go over the whole budget itself.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to take the 4 hours we have allotted for Saturday.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's going to be minor, but yeah.
Well, I won't be able to stay, I think, the 4 hours. I have to go into the city. It's my daughter's birthday, but it depends. What time is it scheduled for? 9 a.m.?
8 o'clock.
We have it from 8 to 12. We can.
8 to 12. Somebody has a sense of humor on this board.
I believe it was Maddie that proposed it and we all accepted it without argument.
You know
She
how
must,
I love
Maddie
my
must
early
have-
mornings.
Maddie, yeah, Maddie, you could do your yoga while we're like waking up and having our coffee.
If you don't think it's going to take 4 hours, which I don't think it will either necessarily, you could do 9 to 11. I don't know what time you want to leave for the city.
No, I don't know. Actually, I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
Okay. All right. So let's, Dale, we're going to the next page here.
Okay. So this brings us over to water transmission and distribution. So we have McCarthy Road water main replacement in for 700,000.
We talked about this a little when we were in here last time, earlier in the week. Are any other questions?
I'm fine with all of this. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's just me because we did talk
Yep,
about it.
No, I'm good too.
Thumbs up. Nice.
I'm good with it. I'm good with
All
all of
right.
it.
All right. Perfect. And then I
Okay.
think that
Well-
is the end of that. The rest of this is all the small stuff that's already been included in the budget. The regular repair maintenance
Yeah,
items.
all the gadgets.
Yep. Everything that keeps us running. Okay.
Gadgets galore. Gadgets are us.
All right, that's it for capital. So we want to go on to the fee schedule.
Yahoo. Are you in your office?
Yes.
So
I just realized that.
we're definitely gonna meet on Saturday for 2 hours.
Okay.
We just do the whole fee schedule on Saturday.
Sure.
The only exception to that would be since,
Sorry.
no, I'm just wondering, I haven't looked at the proposed fee schedule. I know I have it right here. I could look at it.
Yep.
Water is a big thing, and we do have Paul and Andy here right now. I don't know if they're able to join us on Saturday.
Oh, that's, but maybe we could just cut through a couple of these since they're here, Victoria, rather than bring them back on Saturday.
That's what I-
The only ones that had a change for the fee schedule pertaining to Bill was for the day camp.
Right, we did talk about that a little bit already.
Right. DPW does not have any proposed changes other than the water sewer 5% rate increase, which is just part of the budget.
Which one is this?
The only one that actually proposed fee changes was Jaime, for the planning department, other than Bill with the day camp. I'm trying to find the day camp for you, Bill.
So that's really what we should discuss, Victoria, and then we get that, unless people want to recommend changes where changes weren't suggested by staff. I guess that's the other way to look at it.
Right.
No, I mean, Manny doesn't want us to raise any rates whatsoever. So the only ones that we're talking about potentially considering are the Jaime ones, which we did discuss at some length
Right.
here. And we did discuss the potential for camp rates changing. I also think camp rates are like so unpredictable. It's not, I don't think this summer is going to be like summer 2019. I think it's going to be more like summer 2020. So we're planning for something that's unpredictable.
So Bill, when do you have to know your fees for day camp? Like, when do you have to publicize it? And the reason I ask that is if things, I think closer to when you need it, we might know more and have a better sense of things?
We usually open up camp registration towards the end of March.
Okay,
So I would say by March 1st, we'd want to be able to put the fees out.
I feel like that would be more appropriate to, I happen to like Bill's suggestions, and I would support those. But if others are feeling uncomfortable, would they feel more comfortable close, as, a little closer to the date? Hmm. Is that a no by silence, or is that a yes by
Well,
silence?
I'm going to defer that to the other two trustees because
Oh, I
did it
see.
before.
Okay,
I'm not.
you're pushing the
I'm not
can.
in
You're
favor of
kicking
that.
the can down. Okay. So you don't want to raise anything, and I'm okay with Bill. I'm in support of what Bill recommended, which is fine. And I'm flexible. I really am. I can be talked off that in a minute. That's not a problem. But I'm just trying to make some decisions. Victoria, Omar, Bob, thoughts or?
Right. So it's a 5% increase from the existing
Right.
costs, the fees.
And what's the rationale behind that number?
The main cost of our summer day camp is salaries. And each year, the minimum wage goes up $1 an hour. So in 2021, it will be $14 an hour.
Yeah. Okay. I'm in agreement then.
Yeah, I'm actually fine with changing this in the fee schedule. And then I think Rika brings up a really great point that you really should be reassessing things in the first quarter of the year as we have some sense maybe of what 2021 is going to look like. Because you may want to rethink everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if I assume that this structure is based on a normal anticipated year, which 2020 was not. I assume that this is thinking of back in the olden days when lots of children used to gather and play together all summer. We had lots of camp counselors.
Yeah, that's correct. It's being hopeful and optimistic.
Right, and also an easier ratio because you have a much different ratio under COVID.
Correct.
And a much lower enrollment potential. So this is based on happy-go-lucky times where people gather in large groups.
Also, your cost for fogging, maintenance, all that stuff is going to increase too. 5% on one item, although a big item, you're still going to be one of the cheapest camps for miles, especially for what you guys provide. So I think you're getting a mostly thumbs up, enough to say yes, but I think we're going to really have to remember to visit this again. Because I think a lot is going to change, or maybe nothing will change and we're good. It's sort of like, it's going to be all or nothing.
And the thing to remember is that if camp doesn't happen, we actually save money. And
yeah, because they're subsidized basically. The camp is basically running at a loss.
Right, and so it does seem like it's a pretty reasonable thing to say we want to have a 5% increase because we're going to be increasing the salaries for every minimum wage worker,
Right.
most of the day camp counselors. So
And you're going to have increased costs because even if we're somewhat normal, I think you'll still have the increased cost of sterilization or whatever we're doing.
Sanitization, not sterilization. It's sanitizing.
Sanitization. I'm sorry, sterilization. We're hopefully not going to sterilize anyone during the camp thing, but we'll sanitize. Sorry, it was late.
I know. I just say that all the time myself. And people correct me all the time.
Anyway.
So before we say anything we regret, we should probably move on to just planning to be together on Saturday morning, right? Or we're all okay with the 5% water rate increase? I actually thought you were going to come to us with something much more, so I'm fine with it.
Great.
I'm in support of that.
Do you want me to see if Jaime can join us on Saturday morning?
To me, the only way that he could join us if he has an analysis of the services provided by the other municipalities. Again,
Yeah, I don't know if he's had time to get to that. the other thing that we can do with the, you know, we could do the planning fees in a work session if you wanted to.
Again, I can only speak for myself. I'm not in favor of that. You know, we can look into this next year with a lot of pieces, should be hopefully in place by the first quarter. But there's the rest of my colleagues. They can say different way that I'm saying right now. So it's up to the rest of the board, not
Okay.
up to me.
Well, I'm just, you know, whatever, you know,
I'm just curious. I think all of us were together for the Jaime conversation. I'm okay with Jaime's recommendations. I know Manny has, you know, stated a number of concerns just on principle of not wanting to raise any of them. And then more specifically, it's tough because nothing's apples to apples when you compare one community and services to another. They did the most, you know, they did a pretty thorough review of reaching out to other somewhat comparable communities to give us a sense of the range. But, you know, sometimes it's just organized very differently. But I did think, I did appreciate the amount of research that was done to give us a sense of where we fall on the scale. And you know, a couple of instances we were a little higher than expected, but mostly we were on the low end, and he stayed on the low end for the most part. So I'm actually okay with the recommended changes by Jaime. Manny has a lot of concerns, but I have to say, for the most part on this budget, I think we've been pretty unified. And when we vote on December 2nd, we vote on the whole budget. We don't vote on line by line. We vote on the whole overall thing. And generally, you know, by the time we get to that point, we hopefully will all be supportive of it in general, even if we wish one thing here or one thing there was a little different.
Again, yes, 100% correct, Victoria. I will not do it any other way. You know, I'll be, you know, because I am in favor of the budget. I think the budget is a great budget. I'm trying to figure out ways how to reduce the stuff that we are buying, but I cannot find anything. So by Saturday, I don't think I'm going to find any other. I don't have an alternative.
It's just a principle for you,
yes,
correct?
Yeah. No, but it, to me, is, again, I had a brief discussion with Stuart early today, and Omar was there. So you know, there's a lot of things that I think it has to be, we have to do for us to able to get to the point where is it worth us looking at the fees right now? Because again, there's a bunch of stuff out of the top of my head. You know, I'm hopefully we're going to be talking about a 10% administrative variance, which we have a resolution already. So that eliminates a lot of the stuff that's going that may be going in front of the zoning board. There's another one about signage. You know, maybe we do the signage, you know, that comes in front of the planning board and zoning board and any other board that has to do with the land use. So a lot of the stuff, and then a lot of the cleaning up of the words that sometimes is confusing for the planning and zoning board, you know, interpretations. So there's a lot of those things, the miscellaneous stuff that I think is missing, and it will help us and will help them actually, you know, through the process, and realize a lot of the stuff that, you know, to me, at that point, he can come back and say, yes, we did all those things, and these are really the numbers that we are going to be looking into it. So, you know, that's the reason why I'm very hesitant to agree to make changes, because we don't know a lot of the stuff. You know, going back into the escrow accounts that we're going to be using for big projects, what does that look like? We are having to do that the wetlands ordinance. What does that look like? So to me, there's a lot of knowns that they're still out on the table, and for me to approve or actually be in favor of making changes is not fair. I don't think is something that I'm comfortable doing it. But again, it's up to the board. But I will be voting for the whole budget as a whole. Yes.
But we have time to change things if we want to. So
Thanks, Dale.
I read your lips.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
thank you very much. Take care.
Dale, great
Bye.
job, Dale.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody.
Good job.
Thank you, everybody.
Good job.